A tiny crumb of cannabis impacted his life, and he finally has a clearer future. For years, a few crumbs of cannabis played an outsized role in shaping Shiloh Jordan's life. With a stroke of a pen by Maryland Governor Wes Moore, Jordan looks forward to that being in the past for him, as well as tens of thousands of other Marylanders who have been pardoned for misdemeanor marijuana convictions. I just feel like this is a big opportunity for people, to not let struggles get in their way, Jordan, 32, said in an interview with the Associated Press on Tuesday, a day after he watched the governor sign an executive order for the sweeping pardon of more than 175,000 convictions. Jordan was in his early 20s when he was pulled over in Howard County, Maryland, for not wearing a seatbelt on his way home from work as a custodian at a nursing home. The officer said she smelled marijuana, I bet she did, and using a piece of tape, she found cannabis crumbs on the floor of the vehicle. Jordan said she was just like, yep, you're going to jail. Jordan recalled of the incident from about a dozen years ago. I'm like, what, are you serious? I would probably have reacted the same way. But that was the law back then. So she took me to jail and locked me up, Jordan said. He said he didn't think much of the minor charge until his second day at a new job, when he was let go because a background check had uncovered his misdemeanor. It was disheartening, and it made him think about the myriad challenges facing young people growing up in poverty, all the things that so often stand in the way of them staying on the straight and narrow. Jordan said, I felt defeated. I was just trying to, do the right thing. He ended up participating in a job readiness program and later going back to school and playing football in college. He now works as an outreach coordinator at the Center for Urban Families in Baltimore, a nonprofit that is focused on helping families pull themselves out of poverty. The governor's actions this week come after President Joe Biden's administration announced earlier this year that it will take a historic step towards easing federal restrictions on cannabis, reclassifying the drug. Recreational cannabis was legalized in Maryland in 2023 after voters approved a constitutional amendment in 2022 with 60% of the vote. Maryland decriminalized possession of personal use amounts of cannabis on January 1, 2023. Now 24 states and the District of Columbia have legalized recreational marijuana. This is about changing how both government and society view those who have been walled off from opportunity because of broken, uneven policies, Moore, a Democrat, said during Monday's announcement. I don't know why it matters that he's a Democrat. The governor's
gaslighting.
Mm-hmm. The governor's pardon absolves an individual from guilt of criminal offense, but it is not an expungement that destroys the record of the offense. The Maryland judiciary will instead make a note that the offense has been pardoned, leaving it to remain on the record. People who have been pardoned can seek expungement in court. Jordan said he's unfamiliar with the expungement process, but plans to look into it. On Monday, hours after Moore signed an executive order granting the pardons, the clerk of the court for Baltimore said the office was committed to providing all necessary assistance for expunging the charges from people's records, which is huge. That's going to be a game changer for everyone. In a statement, Xavier Conway, the clerk of the Circuit Court for Baltimore City, said the governor's action acknowledges the importance of the fair administration of justice in removing educational, housing, and employment barriers that have long disproportionately affected the lives of many Baltimoreans, especially those that are black and brown. Maryland's largest city had the state's highest number of pardons, 39,865, or about 23% of the total number. Our office is committed and ready to provide all necessary assistance to ensure that the pardoned individuals in Baltimore City can navigate the expungement process smoothly and efficiently, Conway said. I hope that's code for we're going to push through. But I'm really excited to see this. I think that this is an example, a shining example of how these simple possession pardons are helpful. Obviously, it's not an expungement that needs to go with it. But, this guy wasn't doing anything wrong. He was headed home from work. He was not high. He was not selling anything. He wasn't making money. He didn't have guns. He was tired and forgot to put his seatbelt on. And they literally took a piece of Scotch tape and went through this man's floorboard. Who even knows whose weed that was? And then it ruined his life. And I think that it's a beautiful story that this man was able to go on and continue the work that he loved. When he was released from a job because of this misdemeanor conviction, where he was just trying to help people, trying to keep people from falling into a cycle of imprisonment, of poverty, that he was finally able to see some justice there. And I would love to hear what you guys think. I think this is an excellent example of the change. And obviously, we didn't release anybody federally because no one's in the feds for simple possession. But I think this is a great positive impact story.
This tape, the tale of the tape, man, that is harsh way. And like, man, my mind is blown by that right now, you guys. The tape.
Well, I would say 100% the evidence was going to stick.
I see what you did there, Luke. That was very catchy. Very
well played.
Catchy, yes.
Can we go back to what you guys were saying about why they mentioned that person was a Democrat? Because I think that's just standard AP style for when you mention politics.
I just hate pulling bipartisanship into everything. Can't we have one good win for?
Yeah, but it's not gaslighting. They do that for every politician. You both said that it was gaslighting. It's not gaslighting anything. That's just how you describe a politician.
Jason confuses gassing up with gaslighting.
So you're not going to win an argument with two. You're not going to win an argument with two Republicans when you're putting out facts.
No gassing up, Rico. No gassing up, Rico.
I want to touch real quick. I want to touch on what Governor Wes Moore did. Now, we do need to applaud him because he did make progress. He did sign 175,000 pardons.
100%.
It did impact some people, and. I read, and I don't know if this is true, maybe we can look into this later. I read that it did extend to people who had sales, which is more than what Biden did. So if he did that, again, I applaud him. The caveat I want to add into this, though, is that they keep presenting this as if these actions will now enable people to get home loans and welfare and housing and jobs. Misdemeanor convictions do not disqualify you from any of those. It does not ask you on a job application, have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor? It says, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Some job applications do.
Which they have since banned in many states. So my point is that this presentation that this makes a severe impact on somebody's life is just not true, because a misdemeanor cannabis conviction does not bar you from any of those things. A felony cannabis conviction does. So I would implore Governor Wes Moore and the Biden administration to continue this progress and please pardon the people who have felony convictions. It'll be more impactful. These people will have their rights restored. And then we can push them into the courts because they are right. Too many people think that pardons equal expungements, and they do not.
No, 100%.
That still exists on your record.
I think the important part of this story is this is a young black man who was literally doing nothing wrong except for not being buckled up, and it did impact his life. He was working at an impact center, and on his second day, he was dismissed because this came up in a background check. And this is a man who was trying to help people out of poverty. So I think it's a very, yes,
he got that job afterwards.
He got that job afterwards. It's a very small impact on the world, but I think that this is a very good story as a keynote to point to sometimes people who get cannabis charges aren't doing anything wrong. And sometimes this is definitely the case very often, just like with this man, he was profiled. This is a black man who was arrested for a small crumb of cannabis, charged for it, and then later released from positions. And there are jobs that will say, have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony, especially in the medical profession, especially in the nonprofit sector, especially in the government sector. So it does make a difference. I agree with you, Luke, that we are not doing enough, and this is not far enough, and this is just a toe in the ocean of bullshit that we have to swim through. But today, for Juneteenth, I'm very excited for this young black man who is having portions of his life restored, and I'm very excited, and I hope to see the Maryland government follow through with what they've promised this man in the expungement as well, going along with his pardon.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
And big shout out. I got to give it to Governor Wes Moore. He's been doing his thing. It's hard to ignore the fact that it is a black governor doing the damn thing. And since he came into office, he led by being pro-cannabis and wanting to help out the past injustices or move past the past injustices that have been levied disproportionately on black communities. So big shout out to him and the efforts that they're going through.
And you know, in regards with all this, I do want to thank the governor for this work. I do appreciate these types of actions.
Absolutely,
100%.
Yeah.
And you know, there are a lot of the criminal justice, social justice advocacy groups out there that are hailing this as the biggest pardon or biggest criminal justice reform that has happened within any in particular state or federal government. Do you guys think that's true or not?
I mean, the Biden administration, we don't know what really happened with their thing. Like, they keep saying it was, 7,000, 6,000, tens of thousands. We don't know who was affected. They brought 3 people to the White House, I saw. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know what the real numbers are coming out of the White House.
I would argue
on face value, 175,000. If the number is anywhere near there, by far, this is the most historic and most impactful ever.
I love the fact that they're pardons and they're not expungements. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're actual pardons, and he's putting forth the automatic expungements for them too.
Yeah, that's dope.
A lot of the other states, they'll say like, yeah, we're gonna be have mass expungements or automatic expungements. Then we hear like months later that nobody was really expunged, or there's like, oh well, we found like here in LA, we found 150,000 more that were on paper that we did not account for. So I think that by leading,
I would argue that at a local level, and a district attorney or a county attorney that makes a decision to stop low-level prosecution of possession and other cannabis-related offenses is actually having more of an impact and doing it proactively. So places like, shout out to like Dallas and Harris County in Texas, and I'm sure outside of Texas there's a lot of places that are doing that, but places where the prosecutor is using their discretion to, first of all, stop prosecution.
I got to interject, bro. On the one day that we're not giving Texas any shout-outs, it's on JuneTeenth, bro.
All right, that's fair.
No shout-outs on this show on JuneTeenth.
I'll give you that.
Except Galveston, man, because they were the first JuneTeenth.
I was going to say, it all started there.
Yeah.